All right, welcome everybody to the 7th episode already of the Three Amigos podcast. The Three Amigos podcast is a podcast where three friends discuss two of their favorite things, being craft beer and predominantly heavy metal. And when I say three friends, it's very interesting because these friends never agree on anything, except potentially that Iron Maiden is the best band in the world. But lo and behold, we are now going to talk about their new album, and we might have some very different opinions. With me, as usual, we have Andrei Zaretski, keyboard player of Prog Toronto band Driftglass, and JP Revel, the drummer of Iron Maiden cover band Piece of Maiden. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thanks, and we also have the famous YouTube influencer Belgian Jasper. That's the true privilege of this podcast. Is like to be, in the same virtual room as such a big and influential influencer. It's influential influence. In
JP,
the world
do
of,
I forget that you owe me money, or what's going on? I appreciate that. Awesome. Well, so hey guys, we got to know each other through Maiden. That's really why we all know each other, in some direct or indirect way. And then our favorite band, releases a new album. Not the first album they've released since we all know each other, but an event nonetheless. Did any of you guys already pick up a copy of Sinjutsu?
No, I've listened to it through Deezer, and but that's it so far. I was cautious when I saw the length of the album and the length of 4 or 5 of the songs, to be honest. So
I got it here with me. Obviously, people just listening to the podcast won't be able to see it, but I did go out and get the 3 LP vinyl edition, which weighs a ton because it's on 180 grams vinyl, which is nice. But yeah, we'll definitely come back to the length of the album and the songs, I'm sure, in this conversation. Before we get lost into our conversation, what are you guys drinking to fuel this conversation? Andrei?
I'm just experimenting with some local craft beers. This is first time I'm trying it. It's actually quite nice. And you know what? I didn't realize it. It's actually from your favorite Radical Roads brewery.
There you go.
Realize that. It's called the Sinjutsu Pale Ale. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Have you tried this one?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's their flagship beer. It's a citrusy pale ale. It's easy drinkable.
I'm really digging it. This is really hitting the spot. And then following that, I will transition to this Lake of Bays Early Warning Juicy IPA.
Nice. So you're going for the juicy beers today.
I'm on an IPA kick, and we'll see. I have a third one in the fridge, but we'll see if I have to pull it out. It depends on how much JP pisses me off today.
Wow.
Also, for the record, I did not yet purchase a copy of Sinjutsu. I did stream it. I didn't use Deezer because I don't even know what that is. But I do have a Spotify account, so as most people do in the world.
As actual human beings, yeah.
Awesome. I do intend to eventually pick up a vinyl copy, though, to see what it sounds like in its intended form.
Right, exactly. More stuff, I think, that we're going to come back to, some of the statements that you said. JP, what are you drinking right now?
My favorite brew.
There you go.
Obviously, if you're in your home country, Lef, which is for people who are listening to the podcast, I've said it before, I guess, but probably my favorite beer. It's from Belgium, and I think I found it in 1240, so it's been around for a while, but definitely a great taste, great flavor, great texture, and from the wonderful country of Belgium, which is my favorite beer country.
Awesome. And I'm drinking pink grapefruit sparkling water.
Excellent. I know you're doing dry September, so
I am doing a dry September, yes. But I will tell you that this morning I was bottling a new brew that I am making with my neighbor, and we had a little sip, as we were bottling it. So it's not the finished product yet, but it turned out really nice. It's going to be an amber saison, and then I'm actually also started brewing a new batch yesterday, and that will be a coffee maple ale. That should be ready for Thanksgiving. Yeah, so lots of fun in the home brewery here. But guys, let me cheers to Iron Maiden, and cheers to being already halfway through Dry September so that I can have beer soon. Cheers. All right, so gentlemen, the new album Sinjutsu. I have some thoughts about the album in general, and that I'll share, but I'll let you guys share some thoughts as well. And for the listeners, what we're going to do is we're just going to obviously share a little bit of our initial feedback on the album as a whole, but then we'll go into a deep dive where we talk about each song and share what we like, what we don't like, our thoughts, and then we'll wrap it up. Who wants to give some generic ideas first?
It has changed. I want to say, as you said, like Iron Maiden is my favorite band. I love their work. I have the highest respect for Steve Harris as a songwriter, Bruce as a singer, Adrian as a guitar player. Like these guys are like, my love for Maiden. I have, when I listen to a new Maiden album, I look for quality, power, very good songs, and if I have a strong reaction about it, it doesn't mean like it's a shit album. It's just as a fan, I react as somebody who can be disappointed by something or someone you really love. It's getting better with time, I would say, but overall fairly underwhelming album. I would not say because of the quality so much. I would say because of the repeat. I have like the reuse of some riffs and melodies. Yeah. I have about 20 snippets of songs, like parts of this album, where I basically went back to the X Factor. I went back to Dance of Death. I went back to Final Frontier. I went back to Book of Souls, and I re-recorded basically the same parts on that album. So for me, it was, when I texted you a couple of weeks ago being like very displeased with the album, it was more about like FUCK, like I've heard that part before. And it's not like just they bored it. It's like, I don't think the quality is going to do justice here if I play it on my phone through the mic, but
we'll talk about some of these examples.
We'll go through it, but I have a lot of examples. As I said, I have about 15 to 20 snippets of parts where I'm like, that's just a riff or a melody from the previous album. So that's really what pissed me off.
And that's fair.
How many? Yeah, I mean, beside that, I would say, how many 12-minute Steve Harris songs do we need in our lives? Like, I'm a big fan of Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. I find that the intro that lasts for 3 minutes when you have, and then 4 chord songs in the middle, and then you have an endless outro as well, like that type of songs. Like, I like the variety. I like the energy of Maiden, but like all the songs, especially like if you want to be proggy, they want to be proggy by writing 12-minute songs. They want to be like, have different riffs, different parts. But if you want to be proggy, you have to be original. Don't give me 4 chords. And anyway, we can go in details, but that's my feeling. I would say underwhelming. I know there was COVID in the middle. I'm saying, okay, it's been 6 years since there was a Maiden album. I know it was supposed to be released in 2019, so I'll give them credit for like 4 years. But still, there's some quality, there's some fun, but overall underwhelming.
All right, Andrei, rebuttal.
I mean, I can't say that I disagree with a lot of the things that you said. I also noticed that there were quite a few melodies and sections that sounded a little bit too familiar, which is very fair. From your list, I'm surprised you didn't mix Matter of Life and Death, because
Oh yeah.
A whole bunch of those. Yes, I found there was a lot of similarities, a lot of melodies. Here's my thing. I think if we're looking at this album as a part of the Maiden catalog and comparing it to previous releases, whether it's, you know, from their 21st century catalog to, you know, going all the way back to the 70s and 80s when they were just starting out, I don't think it's really fair. I think if you look at this album as a standalone, just completely siloed product, I felt that it was nice. And you guys know, I wasn't a big fan of A Matter of Life and Death. I thought it was excessive and very repetitive. And I found that these melodies fit a little bit better here. What I agree with you on is the 3 10+ minute Steve Harris songs in a row. Like, yeah, the repeating 4 chords, do it 8 times, don't do it 16 times. Like,
yeah.
Chill out a bit. Like Dance of the Celts, yes, had a very, or what is it? Not Dance of the Celts. What's the name?
Death of
the Celts. Sorry, Dance of Death, Death of the Celts.
Yeah. No worries.
I thought that was a very repetitive song. I also didn't particularly love Hell on Earth, but I'm sure we'll dive into the details.
Yeah, we'll go into the details.
I do.
And I actually have a question for you on that, because I did my homework. When was the last time Steve Harris wrote a 5-minute song? And I'll give you a hint. First, I was looking for under 5 minutes. I had to go back to pretty much a day I was not born. But
and you're ancient, so that's hard.
I know. But I'm when I talking Steve Harris, it's like he wrote the music, because there's some like a Steve Harris song, 100%. And I went to a song that was 5:12, so I give him like a 12-second break.
I mean, on this album, Stratego is 4:59.
It's not the
Yannick
song.
That's a Gur song.
So Steve Harris wrote the lyrics, so Yannick wrote the music. So when Steve wrote the music, that's less than 5 minutes. I'll give it's Judgment of Heaven on the X Factor.
Wow.
So it's been 20.
And that's not even a real song.
That's 26 years. It's 26 years since Steve wrote music. That's less than 5 minutes.
So let's go into that now for a second, because here's a thing. First of all, you know, Iron Maiden can do whatever the fuck they want. Like, that's number one, right? Like, you know, Steve Harris is obviously not, you know, in the unlikely event that Steve Harris listens to this podcast, he's not going to really care what we say. And and he deserves that by being Steve Harris for all this time and doing phenomenal stuff. That's just true. Unfortunately, for a very long time, and I would say that it's from before the Virtual 11, or before the X Factor, sorry, is that nobody seems to say or dares to say no to Iron Maiden, and specifically to Steve Harris, and so, you know, nobody's gonna try to make him edit himself, and he will also not give a fuck, and that's totally fine. That's his right. As a fan, I find that a bit of I find that unfortunate, because one of my biggest pet peeves in the last few years, not just Maiden but with more bands, is, oh look, we are doing even a double album. This is not a double album. Give me a break. Like, sure, there's 3 fucking vinyls in this beautiful vinyl package, but you know, I don't want to like flip a vinyl every song. There's 10 songs on this album. The total runtime is about 81 minutes. Like, cut one intro that is 2-3 minutes, and you can put 10 songs on one CD. It's a single album. Like, don't give me that crap. And then what I also we didn't even touch on that just yet, but what I kind of miss, now this is not something that I'm surprised about, because Iron Maiden has done this since Power Slave, is you look at it, you know, the name, the artwork, the everything. It looks like a concept album. It smells like a concept album. but it is
But it's
not
not.
a concept album. Like there's nothing
Son would
about
have been
Samurai
later.
here, except like a little bit in the first opening song. But it's I find that a bit of I feel like if you're and that was the same with Book of Souls, by the way, and Power Slave.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know,
That's what they do.
yeah, that's what they do, and that's marketing, and that's what Iron Maiden does better than any other band, and that's marketing. Now, at the same time, my generic thoughts on the album is also like, you know, I don't think this is the best album they've ever done. I think there's some enjoyable parts of that. I've got some issues with other parts. If this was any other band, I would have never bought this record. But I'm buying the record because I'm a Maiden fan. I'm a Maiden collector. If it has Iron Maiden on it, I'll buy it. And now they are number one in almost every country that still sells physical audio carriers, like vinyl and CDs. And what's going to happen? Same thing that has happened in the last two albums. Statements from Iron Maiden are going to come by and say like, great, Iron Maiden, new album, so successful, most beloved album of all time because it's the best-selling album we've ever had. Yeah. And therefore, on our new tour, we should totally play 8 songs. And nobody's going to care. Like the Book of Souls tour was beautiful made, but, you know, I don't need to listen to all these songs that take forever. And it's just such a missed potential. So for me, you know, that's unfortunate. And there is also a political correctness in the media around Iron Maiden. Like almost every review has been very positive of the album, where the fans are not as unanimously positive. And again, there's good stuff on this album, and we'll get to that. There's really good stuff on this album, but it is being praised like crazy by all the media. And the number one reason for that, in my humble opinion, is because Eddie sells. If you can put Eddie on the cover of your magazine, in your newspaper, people buy it because everybody knows Iron Maiden fans spend money.
Yeah.
And so, and one thing, and I'm gonna call it out right now. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not, but this might be my least favorite album with Dickinson singing. I did not like his singing on a lot of the songs, the overall for me, the album, with some of the production, the sound, with some of the way that the songs are written, this feels to me like more a demo of an album than an actual album. This feels like an album that could have had a lot more editing, a lot more work done. I was a little bit surprised by it. I do like a lot of stuff on the album. We'll go into that. I love the artwork. I think it's a cool concept. I have to say,
I was disappointed by the mix on Bruce. I feel that, and I'm, you know, I don't want to say anything.
It's so different song by song.
Because of his throat cancer. On a lot of first few singles, Stratego, Writing on the Wall, I find like the vocals were really behind. I haven't listened to the record, but again, like, poor guy.
You mean you haven't listened to like the vinyl?
Oh, the actual vinyl. Yeah,
I listened to all the songs.
I streamed it. I streamed it, but not the vinyl record, so I can't compare. But yeah, that was my thing. And I was thinking, you know, he had a cancer, throat cancer.
No, absolutely.
He's over 60. It's hard to.
So let's go into it. But let's kick it off with Sinjutsu. I've given every song even a score out of 5. To kind of, you know, think about it. Sinjutsu, the song Sinjutsu. If this album was a concept album, Sinjutsu would have been a great intro if it was kept at 2 to 3 minutes. I love how the drums are building up, but this is a 7-minute intro. Like, there's no variation whatsoever. It just keeps going and building, and as a song, it's extremely forgettable. And that is one of my main issues. Like, out of all the songs, and we've already mentioned that one song, I'll say it again when we're talking about the song, but I listened to this album, to some of it this morning, yesterday. I can only now recall really one song in my head really properly. Yeah. Like all the other ones, like, I can't, because they're so similar to stuff from Book of Souls or from Final Frontier, but we'll get back to that. But Sinjutsu, I love that vibe, the menacing piece. Like, it sets it up as an epic story coming, you know. And I was like, cool. Like I put on the album. It's like, great. Second minute, third minute. It's like, wait, we're still going.
When is it
Like, what's going
starting?
on?
It
Like,
falls flat.
yeah, like it's like it has to
flat.
explode, and so like I thought it was a really cool intro. I find it weird as a song. I'd love to have it as a 2 to 3 minute intro, and then let the next song like just explode. But yeah, there was nothing really happening. What do you guys think about that?
Go ahead, Andrei.
I kind of agree with you. Sorry, before I say Sinjutsu, I didn't jump in earlier on your production and vocal comments. I'm actually completely 180 on that, but we can touch on it a little bit later. I actually really like the way that Bruce sounds on this album.
Oh, interesting.
I wasn't a fan. I found that the production and his performance was what really didn't appeal to me on Book of Souls. I found Book of Souls very difficult to listen to, not just because it's a very long album, but because Bruce just sounded awful, similar to Final Frontier. But in terms of and the artwork, the alternate cover with just Eddie kind of painted and like zoomed in is one of my favorite things. Like I'm surprised they didn't get. That is the one.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. That looks so sick. But in terms of Sinjutsu as an opening track, you guys are totally spot on. It starts off so powerful and just you feel that energy. You feel like it's building and building and building. But when you're building up for 8 minutes, it's like, it's like imagine you're going on a roller coaster at Wonderland or Six Flags or whatever, like, and it's just like ding, 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 ding. That suspense can only hold for so long. Overall, like, I listened to Sinjutsu, the song, maybe 3 or 4 times, and I always get excited about it. Then I kind of stop paying attention and get distracted. And then, when the chorus is going and everything, I'm like, it's not bad. Like, it seems like a bit of a filler track that would be, in the second half, like on a B-side of their early 2000s albums. But it's not bad. But yeah, I agree with you. It's a bit. It's really drawn out.
I gave it a 2 out of 5.
Yeah, I agree. When I listen to it,
I think it's cool, but it's a missed opportunity.
It falls flat. It starts very well, and then you hear the guitar. I was like really excited, as you said, and then at the end of the day, it doesn't take off. It doesn't pick it up. Falls flat, and I find the melody to be like na 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 na, like happy and give me a break. Yeah. Like there's some good stuff on Maiden. Happy.
The drums are really good. The drums are amazing.
Good, but that was it.
Yeah. I like the melody.
All right.
I would give it a 3 out of 5, just because it does have that.
Andrei says as he's already pouring his second beer, like he's not slowing down.
Fuck you guys. This is gonna be this is gonna be me defending this album for an hour, isn't it? I'll give it a 3 out of 5. I think it's one of the weaker songs on the album.
Yeah.
But the first time you hear the chorus, it is kind of catchy. I like the fact that it's not a typical Bruce delivery of the wailing kind of falsetto. Well, I guess not falsetto, but you know what I mean. Like he's definitely changed his vocal style, probably due to health reasons. I read an article that said that they were refusing to down tune, all that other stuff. So he had to adapt. So he's not as flashy. Which means the guitars have to pick up and do the bulk of the work here, which unfortunately they don't. But that intro and the first 2 minutes of that song are so much fun. I'm giving it a 3.
All right, cool.
I'm with you, Jasper, 100%.
All right, so let's move on to the next song. That's Stratego, which is the second single. This is then supposed to be like the banger of the album, I think, and unfortunately, like, we've listened for 7 minutes to an intro that is not really going anywhere. And I then just was so in need of something that just explodes like the Wicker Man. And it just doesn't explode. It's way too soft at the start, and the verses are soft and boring. I do like the choruses. I like the bridges of the album. Of the song. And the solo like the more I listen to it, the more I like it.
Solo wants to be the Wicker Man so bad.
Yeah, but it's like,
but it's a Yannick solo. It's terrible. Like,
but try to get beyond your
No, I
disdain
did,
for
and
Yannick.
again, go back to the Wild Wind Blows. You have half of the 2/3 of the solo is already on that in that song.
Yeah. No, it's I hear you. It's all over the place a little bit. So for me, it's a very is that what or unbalanced? I don't know what the right English word is, but there's not a lot of balance I find in the song, because I think that I think the verses are not good, but I think the choruses and the bridges are great. For me, it was a 3 out of 5. But I think we needed to see Senjutsu at 2 to 3 minutes and then explode with like Stratego, and it just didn't deliver on that for me.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think if Sinjutsu was like a 3-minute song, and then it goes into Stratego, and Stratego had an Adrian solo expanded into it, and maybe like another verse that had like an alternate,
or just a heavier opening riff also, like it was just
I like it. I honestly
it's
thought
not a bad song.
It was a decent song. We all know that the second song is always going to be that, that typical Maiden single. This kind of reminded me of during the pandemic, the Dragon Force guys were doing, I'm going to write this band in 5 minutes.
So by the numbers.
If they were going to write an Iron Maiden song, this is basically it. Is it the best Maiden single? Hell no. But it's fun. I know a lot of people were underwhelmed by it. I enjoyed it. I listened to it on repeat like 10 times. I was rocking out. It has the gallop. It's unfortunate, like JP pointed out, that it only has the one solo by Yannick. Neither of us are big fans of his style. And the fact that like 3/4 of the solo is either Wind Blows or the Wicker Man, depending on how you interpret it.
He doesn't play on the Wicker Man. It's only an Adrian solo.
I found a lot of parts. If you go back to the Wicker Man from Rock and Rio when they're playing it live, I think there was a lot of parallel. But to be honest, I didn't do a side by side. I'm just going by memory.
Yeah, he tried to copy Adrian, I guess, but yeah, it's only Adrian who plays the Wicker Man. But
it's I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff, but yeah, I would say I would give it a 4 out of 5 because I enjoyed it. I thought it was catchy, but I do accept your criticism is very fair.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to what you guys said. I agree with Jasper. So
okay, well, so then let's because we're gonna have a lot to talk about. So like, if we can, let's move forward then, and not dwell where we don't need to dwell, because that brings us to the third song, the first single, "The Writing on the Wall." So this is the song that I referred to earlier as this is the only song that has really stuck in my head and that I can remember after listening to the album. And that is because for the first time, I think, since 2003 with the song Journeyman, Iron Maiden does something different, something fresh. Like, I'm not saying that Journeyman was a great song or not. I kind of like that acoustic song, but it was different. We hadn't really heard that from Iron Maiden before. They surprised us with a bit of a dark country vibe, a bit of a Bruce solo work vibe as well, I find at times.
Just gonna say that.
Yeah, and it shows us kind of what we've missed all these years, like something fresh. We've been drowning in the last 10 years, 15 years in all these, 8-minute prog epics that all, for me, sound very similar. And so for me, solid 4 out of 5. A different quirky song. I watched the video again. Awesome video. Although like I don't think I will ever really take Iron Maiden serious as a for political and social commentaries, especially in what some of the statements made by certain band members in the last 10 years. But great video. That was a fun video where the fans can obviously go to all the Easter eggs that are hidden in that video, which were phenomenal. And I like the vibe. It's different. I don't want an album all of songs like this, but it stands out and it's fresh. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's my favorite track on the album. It's different. It's original. Again, I went back to the duo of Adrian and Bruce writing a song, it's, I find the album, and I know I'm talking about the album now, not specifically of the song, but I think it's on topic. The album is 50% like just Steve, and the other 50% is Adrian and Bruce, and that could be a Bruce solo album. I find like the writing on the wall could be a solo work from Bruce. Same with Darkest Hour, which is we'll talk about it later. But yeah, it's I love the riff. I love the solo. Adrian's solo is fantastic. I love the guitar work on it, on the song. As you said, it's original, it's different, and yeah, it's catchy. I love it. Is it an Iron Maiden song? Probably not. Is it a Bruce song? Like Bruce Adrian song, a bluesy type of thing that could have been on Balls to Picasso. Yeah, I was gonna say Balls to Picasso, 100%. So yeah, love it. But again, you go back to Maiden Celts, and so they go together into the studio. They write songs. Is it really a Maiden track? No, but it works, and I love it.
I really enjoyed this song. I found with Maiden, like with many other bands, it's you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. People, if the first single off the album would have been Stratego, people would have said, oh great, another Maiden album that has the gallop and that has the sing-along chorus, and they've been doing the same
old
years, and they're unimaginative and nobody cares and shut up and give up and whatever. Then they release something that's completely different and transcending, and people are like, this isn't really Maiden.
Yeah, for sure.
At the end of the day, one of the things that I really enjoyed about the fact that Bruce and Adrian came back into the band is they injected a little bit of their own flavor into it and diversified it. And I think we all agree the Writing on the Wall is a standout track on this album, and it's for that very reason. It's not a typical Harris song. It's very reasonably length, 6 minutes or whatever it is.
Short for a Steve Harris song.
I mean, that's a song for a metal band that's become a lot more proggy in the last 2 decades, I think is very fair. And I mean, I love Adrian's solo on this one. It's really fun. It's very creative.
Yeah.
My one thing, this is a 4 out of 5 song for me. It would have been a 5 out of 5 if the chorus was a little bit more thought out. I found it to be quite lazy.
Overall, I'd say that I liked very few lyrics on this album. Like nothing really like, Maiden at times have been phenomenal poets and storytellers, and didn't really get, sometimes I feel like they tried really hard with some songs that we'll talk about in just a little bit, but anyway. We all agree that The Writing on the Wall is one of the better songs on the album. It's a little bit more unique. Let's see if we are as unanimous about the next one, which I think is the absolute stinker on the album, Lost in a Lost World. I think the verses are extremely lazy writing. I think it's an unnecessary intro. It's a very Book of Souls or A Matter of Life and Death song, I find. Choruses were a little better, but I still think it's a boring recycled riff again. The guitar solos I find sounded weird and stitched together. This for me was like, did they just have like 10 unused ideas and just put them all together in the song, and then trying to be like super deep in very, very shallow lyrics? I give it a 1 out of 5. I think it's a terrible song.
I have nothing to add. I think you stole my notes.
You told me you didn't have any notes.
No, I have notes on the album, and these not song by song, but this one is. And as you said, and then I let Andrei speak because I don't have much to add. But they stole the riff from Passchendaele, like it's Passchendaele. Anyway, so I have nothing to add. I fully agree with you.
Andrei, why are we wrong?
You guys are wrong. I really I really like this song. Yes, there's quite a few things lifted, and it is definitely a typical example of Steve not letting. This is Steve basically going, I finally found a producer that just doesn't cut anything.
Who listens to me? that doesn't tell me. Do
like
this,
they
do
need
that.
to edit their stuff. But there's a lot of cool stuff there. I love the ominous acoustic intro of this song. Just the overall feel of that guitar and the reverb that it creates. I mean, again, I listen to it on Spotify in as many different forms. I listen to it on different speakers, headphones, earphones,
Right.
and it sounds just fantastic on every single execution. Like it just has this really nice vibe to it that I'm digging. Yes, the solos, like they needed to work a lot harder on those. I feel like they almost improvised them on the spot. Maybe they did. I don't know. I think that was a technique they used for Book of Souls, but I quite like it. The chorus is super catchy. I love the way that Bruce sounds on this one. I'm really digging it. Is it long and repetitive? Yes. Is that basically a Harris trademark at this point? Also, yes. So
okay, so I have a question for you because I know we're excited. There's a new Maiden album. We're happy. But in 2 years from now, are you gonna like pull out that record and play the song? Like honestly, will you? Like I'll say it. I still play songs from A Matter of Life and Death. I still play songs from Brave New World. I still gonna play Passchendaele once in a while. I'm still gonna play the Book of Souls and Tears of a Clown from the same album because I love them. But I still gonna play Greater Good of God because I love it. I'm gonna play any of the songs. I'm gonna play the Writing on the Wall. But
see, it's interesting. Like I really. I know you're talking about excitement, first new Maiden album, this and that. I didn't have that feeling with Book of Souls after the first week. Like Tears of the Clown is a wicked track. I really enjoy the title track as well. But other than that, I was just like, Eternity Shall Fail is nice, but just like Matter of Life and Death. I tried so hard to get into that album because everybody was just telling me how amazing it is. I can't do it. I just feel like
that's not the. But the question is not whether or not you still agree with those two albums, because that's different for everybody. But the question is, are you gonna play this album in a year from now?
Well, that's what I'm getting to. I actually genuinely want to listen to this album over and over again because I do enjoy it. Do I have any standout? Like, yes, I do have some standout tracks, but I want to listen to the full thing. The first disc. The first side of it, tracks 1 through 6, I thoroughly enjoy.
That's not the first. Well, yeah, CD disc. Okay, because on vinyl.
I mean,
it's like literally it's 1 or 2 songs per side of a vinyl, and then that's not why you do vinyl. But anyway, cool.
That's true. The top side is nice, and I'm excited to talk about tracks 5 and 6 and see what you guys feel, because those are the highlights for me.
Well, so Lost in a Lost World for you, which is what? Oh no, that's the 4th. Okay, so 5, Days of Future Past, a shorter song, finally. For me,
Dickinson.
I thought it was a good song. I give it 4 out of 5. I thought it was, this is the example of what I want of all these, because to be honest, Book of Souls, I actually like the Red and the Black, and I like Death or Glory. I'm not really a fan of Tears of a Clown, but that's okay. Final Frontier, a few things that I really like. A Matter of Life and Death, I like 1 or 2 songs. These Colors Don't Run is pretty decent. But again, all these albums for me are very much similar. They're all grouped together in one. Like, I thought Brave New World was phenomenal. I thought Dance of Death was a pretty good Iron Maiden album. The last great Iron Maiden album for me personally. After that, it's all become like very long songs, very proggy. But Days of Future Past is what I want. It's an 8 or 12-minute Harris song compressed into 5 minutes, and it's like that's what I. And because it's not written by Harris is why that is the case. But that for me shows, like, because it has those proggy elements, It's a song that I'll be able to remember. It's digestible still. It's not that over and over repetition of the same few chords. And I think there's so many songs on the last 3 albums, this one included. Well, actually, then I should say the last 4 albums, that would have been great if they were done this way, where, like, you know, Red and the Black, but is like 13 minutes as well. It's like, give me the 5-minute version of that. You know, there's still hooks. It feels cut and pasted at certain times, but I prefer this over the endless repetition. So for me, this is one of the better songs of the album. Maybe I'm more aligned with Andrei here than JP, given the reaction that JP had when you said that you like songs 5 and 6, Andrei. So wait, let's let Andrei first add on top of this why he likes this song, and then we can let JP give his opinion.
Sure. I'll give you my digest, and then before JP starts to speak, I'm gonna grab another beer because I think I'm getting. But this is my favorite track on the album. This is something that a friend, and maybe there was a bias set up here, but before I even listened to it, because I was at work, a friend of mine just sent me a message and said, "Days of Future Past, holy shit." So I was really excited for it. The expectations were high, and it didn't disappoint. I wasn't really listening to the album or looking at timestamps because it was in my headphones. I went for a walk and I just kind of enjoyed it. And this is exactly what a Maiden song from the 80s felt like the first time I kind of started listening to Maiden. It was catchy, it was energetic, it was melodic. I love the chorus, I love the riff. The riff is really cool. I mean, is it generic Iron Maiden? Yeah. But is that what I fucking love about Iron Maiden? Yeah. Like this is a song that could fit on Peace of Mind, for example, and doesn't feel like it's out of place. I think it's Maiden at its best, and because it is a Smith Dickinson song, I feel like it could really fit on Accident of Birth or Chemical Wedding, which is not a bad thing at all, because I think that those 2 albums are an example of what Maiden could have been. Yeah. But in the 90s, those 2 guys got a little bit more input.
Yeah. JP.
All right, JP.
Yeah, so I just want to point out that the 2 highlights of the album right now are the Dickinson Smith songs. Just to say that, writing on the wall. I agree in terms of the music. I really struggle with Bruce on this song. I find the days of your, like, I find he's pushing so much. The days of your, it hurts. Like listening to this song. Yeah, listening to these songs for me, it actually hurts my body. I feel for Bruce. I feel like he's never gonna be able to sing it this one live. Like, forget about like up to 10 shows on a tour. Like, give him one show, he can't sing that song. It's too high. You can hear he's pushing, he's struggling like to make the last note, and I'm sure he did it right once, and they just kept repeating it. Like, it hurts. It hurts. That's the best part. No,
I have an important question. You said it hurts. Which parts of your body does it hurt the most?
Come play hockey with me next week, you'll see.
Awesome. Okay.
It's. I agree with what you guys said. It has the energy. The intro is great. I love the riff on the guitars, but I physically can't listen to it because I feel Bruce's pain when I listen to the song, and it hurts me. Like, downtune it. Play it in C. Play it in B. I don't care. Play a good song. Sing it lower, but don't play it in E. Like, you're hurting your, like, brutal.
Can I retort?
Yeah, of course.
One, just food for thought, and this is completely subjective, but to me, Bruce's kind of tendency to push himself is what really makes him stand out as a singer. Like, if you look at some of the singers in the 80s, Bruce was never the best singer. he didn't have the same range, he didn't have the same vocal control. You had a variety of these kind of operatic style singers that did that, but it's the fact that when you listen to him, his voice almost cracks at the very, very tip. Yeah. It just gives it so much emotion and so much energy. I do see what you're saying here, like with Days of Future Past, as my voice cracks. He's singing beyond his ability at this point, but I kind of like it.
But when he does that live,
it's gonna be brutal. It's gonna be brutal.
But if he pushes himself on a live album or a live show and he tries to do it, that's fine. However, when he does it on an album and it sounds painful on an album, you know what it means. It's like live, it's gonna be brutal and he can't do it like it did.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm totally with you, but you know what? It's we're talking album here, but yeah, this is one of those things where I'm like, okay, if he's gonna play this song live, because we know that the new tour is gonna be 80% Stratego, or not Stratego, was it Sinjutsu?
Sinjutsu.
Fine, but this is one of those things where I'm like, oh shit, I really hope that the Toronto date is going to be like the second or third show on that leg, because we all remember what happened last time they did the Book of Souls tour, and I think it was at the
Children of the Damned
second show, and it was amazing. And then 15 months later, he came back and he blew his voice on the second track when he tried to do Children of the Damned, and it was just horrible. So I can definitely see him doing that with Days of Future Past, but I digress. For an album and just listening to that specific take, I thoroughly enjoyed him almost tearing his vocal cords.
All right.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Okay. So, JP not too happy about it, but Andrei, myself,
love the music.
kind of like
love the music. Not like the vocals make it really. Yeah.
All right. We move on to the song "The Time Machine," and for me, this was not one of my favorites. I give it 2 out of 5. I think the bridge was very recycled. It was Dance of Death all over. Yeah, absolutely. It's the exact same melody of that song. I mean, I liked it, but that's because I liked the song Dance of Death. You know, like I think Dance of Death is a hugely underrated album, by the way. I like the chorus and the use of acoustic guitar at times. Again, this could have been a very fun 6-minute song, and it's not. It's way too long. There's too many changes in this song, I find. I do like the solo, but like there's the pre-solo there that I think is completely unnecessary. So I was just like, nah, wasn't my thing. And because it was recycled, I thought like, well, then you're not getting better points. Like if they never wrote Dance of Death and they used this melody for the first time, then okay, cool. That's a fun melody. But sorry, you've done it before. JP, you're nodding. Let me pile on.
I'll let Andrei speak because it seems like he has a different opinion from me. This is the worst song on the album. Extremely recycled. I think I have 6 snippets of but were used on many different albums. Like really, it's the most recycled song on the album. It's like Andrei, if you like that song, you're just like go listen to Kanye and Drake. Because
I mean, I like that song because I'm a Maiden fan.
I'm teasing you. You know, it's all the love, but yeah, it's a very recycled song. Yeah, very underwhelming. Nothing original. You said it all, Jasper. I give it a 1. This is really my least favorite track on the album. I skip it. It's boring. As much as I love Writing on the Wall, but yeah.
Ouch. I quite like this song. I mean, yeah, there's some there's a little bit of recycling going on. I can't deny that.
A little bit. Just
they're
a little
recycling the good stuff. they're recycling the good stuff, they're making it their own, and they're putting it all together. Like I said, I'm looking at this purely as a standalone album. I'm not considering everything they've done in the past,
right?
Because this is how I see it. You create something new, it's a new release, forget everything that you've learned, because if we're comparing this album to what they've done in the 80s...
That's what you tell yourself because you're an Aria fan.
Yes, I've conditioned myself.
How can you not compare? It's too easy otherwise. Let's re-release Killers and do the same songs. Like, you need to be able to...
I mean, I don't know. I wasn't invited into the studio to see what the hell was in their minds, and I'm not sure if like when Steve came over and said, hey, let's do this, I don't know if anybody was like, oh yeah, sure, no problem, I already know this riff. But it's overall, I like the song. I think it has a good flow. I actually really like the solos. I love the just the vocal melody, the way that Bruce delivers it is a lot of fun. I think he's got a lot of emotion in there. He's not trying too hard, but at the same time, he's not pushing his limits. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Okay.
Is it original? Hell no. But I mean, if we're really dissecting it piece by piece, Maiden has been known to recycle riffs throughout their career.
But do you want to spend $60 on a vinyl that's gonna use recyclable material? I mean, it's great for 65. I mean, it's great for the environment.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, if reuse, recycle, and yeah. But do you really want that?
I mean, you guys didn't grow up in Canada in the 90s, but there was a fantastic commercial that was trying to encourage kids to recycle, and it's like, recycle, reduce, reuse, comes out new. So now imagine that with a galloping Maiden riff.
But so, Andrei, did you say that this was your favorite song, or was it the previous song?
No, the previous song.
Okay, so you had you like this one, but Days of Future Past is your favorite song, and then JP, your favorite song is The Writing on the Wall. With the next song, we actually come to my favorite song of the album. I think Darkest Hour was a good song. I gave it 5 out of 5 because I wanted to give at least one song a 5 out of 5. I think Writing on the Wall stands out more, and I think, you know, in the future, which songs will I play more? Maybe more Writing on the Wall than Darkest Hour, but I thought it was good. This is the first time that I actually loved the intro of a song. You know, the intro riff I thought was good. It's a slow epic, but I liked it. I also liked, actually, this was my favorite singing from Bruce on the album. So I thought it was good. And then maybe also, and I'll push it over to JP, given that you are a drummer, but I think this was my favorite drumming also on the album. And I like the solo. So I thought, you know what, this was good all around. So I don't want to be too critical for every song. I like the song. Simple, straightforward.
Yeah, in terms of drumming, I still prefer Senjutsu, but it's a good song. The only thing that bugs me a little bit, it's if you listen to Out of the Shadow from Matter of Life and Death and Coming Home from Final Frontier, it has the same slow, epic feel with fantastic Adrian work on the guitar for the last 2 minutes of the song with the solos, and, you know, working with Bruce's voice. I think they're really good at doing that. However, it's not like that obvious. It didn't strike me as much when I listened to it, not like on the Time Machine and some other songs where I was like, holy moly, it's copy and pasting. So I agree with you. I love the energy. I feel the lyrics were my favorite ones. Kind of deeper side of the album. But yeah, that's my second favorite track on it.
Okay, Andrei, what do you think?
Solid track. One of the highlights for me as well. Not surprisingly, another track that Harris didn't write. Just overall great. I love the chorus. Chorus is a lot of fun. I love how it's just kind of like building up too. It starts off very brooding. I know I've said the exact same thing for Lost in a Lost World, but That's I'm a big fan of songs that start off slowly and build up. That's my thing. Overall, it's good. It is a little long. I don't know. It's probably like 8 minutes long or 9 minutes long or whatever it is. I'm not sure.
Which makes it a shorter song on this album.
It's not that bad, actually. I think only the last 2 songs are double digits. So that's why this album just seems bloated. It's just Harris decided to do this trilogy at the end that really...
Yeah.
This is my thing. If the album finished at Darkest Hours and didn't have the last 3, I would think that this is a fantastic album.
Right.
I thought it was a good album, but those, like, stick it to those 7 songs, make it under an hour, and it's a good Maiden album. I really dig it. But overall, like, I don't want to dissect it too much, but Bruce's delivery, this is where he does do a little bit more of the soaring vocals, so to speak. There's a lot of range to it. He pulls it off pretty well. They are playing a little bit lower, but that's fine. I mean, I'm a realist in that sense. That's good.
All right, awesome. So and now we get to the final 3 songs of the album. Andrei just called it the trilogy that makes the album quite bloated. Let's kick it off with the first of those 3, which is Death of the Clansmen, or did I say that word? I guess it's Death of the Celts. Although I should say maybe Death of the Journeyman, because the Journeyman riff is just completely recycled. Can
I say, before you go on, can I say something? Like,
you can say whatever you want.
I had the expectation that you would love the album coming into this podcast, and that I was going to be the outlier here. So I'm pleasantly surprised to see that we're very much aligned.
As Andrei is pouring another drink to keep up with.
And then what's funny is that for the couple of weeks before this recorded, we were like, keep it for the podcast. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. Jasper is like...
Okay, what JP's talking about for everybody's listening is that we tend to send each other about 1 million text messages a day. Half of them are about Iron Maiden when they're not releasing an album. And so when Iron Maiden releases an album and these 2 idiots keep postponing the date that we can record the podcast and wanted to start discussing the album on text message, I was like, keep it for the podcast. I mean, I think overall, I don't hate this album, but it's just like there's too many songs that are just not good enough, I find. But yeah,
that's why I set up the introduction. I said, look, I love Maiden, high respect 100%. For Steve, and anyway, blah blah blah.
Steve can do whatever he wants to do, but here's what my beef is with Death of the Celts, or Death of the Clansmen, or Death of the Journeyman, because boy did they recycle in this song. I mean, the Journeyman riff is there, but why do I call it the Death of the Clansmen is because they so clearly were trying to make another Clansman. And it's 100%. Just didn't work out. Like the Clansman at some point explodes, and this one slowly rocks you to sleep. And it's such a boring song. I mean, it's a decent song. The riff is pretty heavy, so it's a more metal song than other songs, but it just doesn't really deliver. And if Iron Maiden says that they're gonna play the Clansman on their upcoming tour, you can't wait to be there and sing along every word. If they're gonna play this song on a live show, this is when I go for a washroom break. I'll go grab a few beers and I'll appreciate the musicianship that they're portraying, but I'm not I don't feel like I'm gonna take over the world like I do with Clansman. And so also what this song is missing is, if you're gonna talk about the death of the Celts, put some fucking Celtic music in there. Give it a bit of a fun melody that they did with Clansman and with some other songs where they subtly sometimes put in some influences of other types of music, and in the solo that would have been great. Thin Lizzy, for example, does it phenomenally on Black Rose, which is one of my favorite rock big rock epic songs of all time, where like the solo feels like an Irish jig, and that works well. Like Death of the Celts could have had something like that, but it's just not there. And I mean, the riff is heavy. It's a metal song. It's a decent song, so I'm gonna give it still a 3 out of 5. But I'm being generous, I find.
I mean, I was gonna say you can't add Celtic melodies and give the Celts because the Celts are all dead according to the song. So maybe that's why.
No, I agree. When I listened to the intro, I was like, "Here we go, the Clansmen again," and the acoustic bass.
5 minutes later.
5 minutes into the intro, you're like, "Okay, here we go, we start." And underwhelming song. Again, the structure is so I can pre-write the Maiden song, and then the long intro, the acoustic bass, the guitars are gonna come in, and then you have the 4-chord part. Yeah, if they want to be proggy with and I said that in the intro, you want to be proggy with 12-minute songs. And I know Jasper doesn't like Dream Theater, but if you want to do that, like Symphony X, Dream Theater, be wild, go for it, entertain me with musicianship, be jazzy, be proggy, be tough, be just don't play like some straight 4-on-4 with some 4 chords here and there. Like that's at one point you write a couple of songs like that, which they have in their career, but then overall it's too repetitive, there's not creative. Like Andrei, you love prog music. You're probably the guy who listens to prog music the most in this group, but I think that's you would agree with that.
Yeah, this is not a prog song by any means, and not that I'm putting labels or anything, but
Sure.
This is my least favorite song on the album. I found it to be really bloated. There is no reason to have that kind of intro, of that length, that outro. It's making a song 10 minutes by just doubling the sections doesn't really make it progressive or interesting. The whole idea of being progressive is not length, it's quality and variety, and this just isn't here. This seems to me like one of those we need a long Celtic themed song on the album, so let's just do that. And it seems like they didn't really put any thought into this one. I think I skipped over it most of the time. Like I listened to it once or twice. It just didn't really grab me.
Yep. All right. Seems like we are mostly in alignment on that one. On to The Parchment, which for me, could have been on A Matter of Life and Death. For all I know, it's on there somewhere. This for me was a tough one to rate because I thought the first half. I mean, it's a long song. The first half was extremely boring, I thought. And what I don't like that Iron Maiden has been doing for a long time now is when there you've got dual guitar harmonizing, where Bruce is singing over it, and it makes, I find, this the guitars and the vocals sound very naggy. So I'm not a fan of that. But at the same time, the second half of this song I think is just phenomenal. And it really comes to life. I think Bruce is finally in really great shape on this song. The performance was really good. Again, could have been like a phenomenal 6-7 minute song, way too long. But yeah, the second half of this song was really good. So I'm actually going to give it a 4 out of 5. But it's, could have been a 5 out of 5 if they just cut the first, 5 minutes of that song and then worked it a little differently. I like the instrumental pieces, but the first half, specifically, it gets boring, right? And that's what Andrei said earlier. If you have a great, cool riff, repeat it maybe 4 times, which is already too long. Don't do it 12 times. And it just keeps going forever. So thought it was a very, again, there was a lack of balance there, but it builds up, and so I think it will be like a cool song to see live. It'll be cool to see them perform and really master their instruments and do solo after solo. But again, I'm not gonna be like jumping up and down and getting all wild like I would do with the Clansmen, or I would do with Blood Brothers, for example. Like it's I'm not one of those Maiden fans that thinks that, you know, they only made good songs until Power Slave, right? Like I think they've made phenomenal songs in the last 25 years. Passchendaele, another example. Yeah, so a bit of a weird song for me. I first gave it like a lower score, but then I was like, yeah, I really like the second half of the song, so I gave it a bigger score. What do you think?
I'd say as much as for Dent of the Celts, they tried to do Clansmen, I feel like they tried to do another Sign of the Cross with this one. There's some parts that none of the snippets that I recorded were pretty much very similar to the part of the cross, you know, when I did. So there's I have a snippet like that. It sounds like, you know, the parts of the Sign of the Cross. But I have to say it's a decent one. It's building up nicely. I really don't like when they, as Jasper said, when they put a third guitar to follow the same line as Bruce. I find it like you're not creative.
It's distracting.
You have three guitars. Yeah, it's distracting. It's repetitive. It shows you lack creativity. So I fully agree with you. Yeah, overall, there's like some really good parts in the song, but again, it's ruined by the fact that you have 4 minutes of intro that are really slow, and then the part in the middle that sounds like the Sign of the Cross. So going back to the discussion we had a couple of songs ago, where he was like, okay, make a 4 or 5 minute version of this song, and I'm actually going to dig it and be happy about it. But 12 minutes is way too long. So yeah, this one I would have given a 3. Because again, if I listen to the album, I'm like, hey, it's a good one, I'd give it a 4. And then will I be listening to it in 4 years from now, 3 years from now, and be as excited? Maybe not. So yeah.
It's one of those songs that might end up in like, you know, in 10-15 years on like list of like the 10 greatest Iron Maiden solos of all time, and they pull this one in as like the unknown obscure song that has good stuff to it, but that most people forgot about.
I actually quite like this song.
I think we all like what this song could have been, but Andrei likes the whole song.
I mean, I like the first half of the song. I think it's kind of cool. Is it too long? Yeah, absolutely. But I don't mind listening to it. Time will tell if I'm going to still listen to it and enjoy it 6 months from now. But I thought it was pretty cool. I dig the instrumental section quite a bit. The main riff is really nice. Bruce sounds good. Everything, the balance in the instrument is quite nice.
Yeah, Bruce is great on this song.
Yeah, I agree with you. Having the third guitar mirror the vocal track is just lazy and unimaginative. And it also creates issues live, because if Bruce needs to adjust the vocal line based on just his limitations, if he's tired or burned out or whatever, it's going to create some issues. But again, that's not what I'm thinking of when I'm listening to this in a studio setting. This is just me having a good time. In terms of like your comment earlier, where it's like, you know, things like the Clansmen or things like Blood Brothers, and how it builds up so much energy live. I think one of the big things about it is it has a really simple chorus. All these songs have these really, we're blood brothers, certain freedom. Ow. So this is where they're just not doing that anymore, but that's part of Steve's kind of, I do what I want. I want to broaden myself musically. And he can get away with it. I found that on Death the Celts, it really didn't work. On the Parchment, I think it does. But we'll agree to disagree.
But yeah, I mean, and I think we're not disagreeing that much. I think the only thing that I really disagree with you on is the first 4 minutes, you know, where I thought it was boring, and you liked it, but I think there's great stuff in there, and yeah, the band is probably, I know that this is not necessarily, I don't think this was like a Matter of Life and Death fully recorded live as a band, but if it was, then on this song I think the band is in the greatest shape, like you know, the way they're playing and the singing. But anyway, so that brings us to Hell on Earth, the final song of this album. Not the longest one. The Parchment one was the longest. For me, felt very much like a Final Frontier song. There are some really good bits. I like some. So what if you remember the way it goes, is like Bruce is very powerful when he says the word "pray" at the start of certain, pre-choruses, I should call them, I guess. But then the rest of that sentence just falls flat, and like I was like, like this needed the pray power was there, like keep it up. And I also very much like the choruses where he goes like, "and when I leave this world," as a start of the chorus. I forget how the rest goes. Like those were like the good bits, but apart from that, I think that a lot of the vocals and also the lyrics kind of fall flat. I think there are my beef with Senjutsu, the song, was that it was too similar. There was no variation. My beef with this one is that there's too much variation. I think this is another example of a song very much to like also a little bit like the Time Machine, but I think more so here, where there's this like, oh, we've got 20 leftover ideas for this album. Let's just all play them one after the other. Let's stitch them together and call it a song. And in some cases, it really felt very forced. Like, yeah, like they go into a certain melody, and like it's not even the full 8 counts of the melody, and it just twists away. And okay, yeah, maybe that's prog, and I just don't understand it. But I feel the tempo changes like really took the vibe out of this song for me, and then I'm like, okay, I've been listening to 9 songs already. Most songs are too long. I just don't have the patience anymore for this, and I think this is a song that I'm not gonna say skip, but I'm gonna stop listening to the album early when I listen to this album next in full. So 2 out of 5 for me for this song. It's not the worst. I still think that Lost in a Lost World is absolutely my least favorite song, but then this one and the Time Machine for me are also really not up there. Just felt like it was just an unfinished thing. Like it didn't feel like a fully completed and executed produced song. So yeah, and it's a shame, because I felt like throughout the album goes up and down. Some songs I really don't like, some songs I really do like. And then I would have preferred that it just stopped at the Parchment, because the second half of that song for me was just so great. And I was like, okay, you know what? It was a bit of a roller coaster. Wasn't the best album, wasn't the worst album, but it ends on such a high note, and it's such an epic ending. And then after that epic ending, we now have Hell on Earth, where it's just like, it leaves me with a bad taste in my mouth. And it's a shame, because for me, it really pulls down the whole album as a whole. I would have given the album maybe 7 or 8 out of 10 if it was 9 songs with the Parchment ending. Now for me, it's like a 6 to 7 maximum. But anyway, those are my thoughts.
Generous too.
What did I miss?
No, what bugs me as well is that the melodies for the vocals are what I call happy melodies. Like if you listen to the Hell on Earth, find it's like
it's upbeat.
They try to have a dark side through the music, through the riff, through the intro,
but the E doesn't make that sound dark at all.
And the melody is like so happy and trying to be engaging and be okay. Like I miss the part of Maiden where I can like have my fist up in the air, and I'm not saying like this all the songs should be like that. Like there's some happy-ish, power metal-ish songs that they have that I really love, and we talked about the Clansmen at length, but they also have some very angry songs that really make me want to jump into a pit and then like push you guys and have fun, and they can't find the right balance for it, especially on Hell on Earth. You have the title track, you have the dark intro, you have the riff, and all of a sudden you have that happy melody that comes out from Bruce, and you're underwhelmed about like the disconnect between the two. So I agree with you. Again, I feel bored. Because of COVID, I work from home now, even though I started going back to the office, but so I play a lot of music, so it's in the background. but yeah, if I start like driving or taking the train and want to be active in listening, not just have something in the background that I listen to. If I really want to be active, like I'm not gonna put the songs into in my ears because these songs are not for active listening. They're for easy listening, and underwhelming song and album for me.
Andrei,
I would say
why are
just
we...
to finish.
I would
Put it lower than Book of Souls, lower than Dance of Death, worse than Matter of Life and Death. Maybe I'm the only one who liked Matter of Life and Death, but I'll put it to the Final Frontier-ish. Not a big fan of these two albums, so yeah, I would say these are like Final Frontier, and this one would be the second worst album, like two worst albums of the post Brave New World.
Yeah. Andrei, why are we idiots that just don't get it?
I mean, I don't think I'll
answer those two together as well as one question.
I'll start off by saying that you guys are spot on with Hell on Earth. I think that's a weak track. It's interesting because people on this very trusted place called the internet really love it. I don't understand why, but overall, like I said before, if you take out the last three tracks of this album, I think it's a very solid album. There's a lot of good stuff in here. Yes, some of it is a little bit recycled, but I like the production. I love the sound of Bruce. I love the fact that there's a little bit of diversity in it in the sound that is not a typical Maiden album. But those three epics in the end really kill it. I wouldn't rank it below Book of Souls because I thought Book of Souls and Matter of Life and Death, both of them were just really bloated, and they suffered from the same pitfalls that the second half of this disc does. I mean, it is quite subjective, but just the catchiness of the melodies, mostly led with Smith's writing or his solos, really kind of saves this one. But overall, like I think it's a good album. I'm enjoying it, and I would say probably one of the better ones that they've done since Bruce's return.
All right. Well, there you see. Everybody has different opinions, and has a different experience.
It's funny. If I had to bet, I would have said Jasper would have agreed with Andrei based on because again, I'm not a big fan of Dance of Death, but based on the feedback from Dance of Death, I thought Jasper would have liked this. Not all the songs, but I thought you would have loved or enjoyed more some of the epic songs. But I'm happily surprised that you and I are on the same page and have the same, feeling about the songs. That's interesting.
Yeah, for me, it's
to get your point of view.
For me, this album is of the 21st century. Let's keep it in that frame, because otherwise it becomes too difficult and it's unfair with all the historical and nostalgia that starts playing. But of the 21st century albums, this one feels like the biggest missed opportunity for me, just because I find that I'm not a big fan of A Matter of Life and Death. I think there's a couple of really cool songs there. I'm not the biggest fan on that one, so I'm more in line with Andrei there than JP. I think most fans weren't too happy with the Final Frontier. I think I like the Final Frontier more than both of you, because I think there's a couple of good songs in there. I've never been the biggest Book of Souls fan. I like I said, Death for Glory, Red and the Black. I do appreciate at times the Empire of the Clouds, because I thought that was, as much as that was a bloated and long song, that was actual storytelling, and you could actually follow a story along. And there are albums of the ones that I just called out that I think are better or worse than this one, but all of those were finished products. I still think that Book of Souls needed editing and could have been a one-disc album instead of a bloated double album. But this one, I like 3 songs a lot. I like The Darkest Hour, I like Writing on the Wall, and I like Days of Future Past. All the other songs for me sound like demos that have great stuff in it, but none of them are really finished, including the Parchment, including Stratego, which I think are like the 2 songs of the remaining songs that I kind of really like, but it's still just like, oh, I like this piece, I like that bit, if only they'd changed this. And they all, for me, seem like songs that could have stayed in the oven a little longer and had a little bit more of a critical producer. And so I don't really know yet where this will end up. I definitely think that Brave New World is by far the best album they released in the 21st century. I think my second favorite is Dance of Death. I think it's not getting the credit that it deserves. I think what's the one, the Rainmaker, I think that's a good song. I think Montsegur is a great song. I think Passchendaele is a phenomenal song. From Dance of Death,
Passchendaele,
is a good song. So I think it's I think that's a solid album. But then of the more proggy, longer albums, maybe A Matter of Life and Death will be the best of those. Maybe this one will grow on me. Now, like because it's such, for me, it feels unfinished. It also means that, by listening to it more, that surprise is gone. So like now when I listen to Hell on Earth again, I know that it's just going from in and out on different tempos. So it's not that much of a surprise anymore. So maybe I'll like it next time when I listen to it. So I'd be very interested if we talk in a year from now, how
about the album,
how we will have changed our opinions. We'll see. I like a lot about the album, but it feels unfinished, and I wish that somebody dared standing up to Steve Harris
to Steve,
like, hey, let's do something else. But then at the same time, Steve Harris can do whatever he wants, right? I mean, it's his band, and he's got nothing to prove.
Nothing to prove,
and that's fine. But the unfortunate side effect is that we're now all going to pretend that because every Maiden fan buys it anyway, and few people are buying albums, so Iron Maiden is going to be higher in the charts than usual. But it's going to do well, and Maiden's going to make a statement, say like, oh, we are #1 in 26 countries, and we went gold in 30 countries, and whatever. And therefore, we're now going to play the whole album live, and then the next release is going to be Sinjutsu Live, and it's going to be a double or triple vinyl live with a DVD, and we're all going to buy it because we're all stupid. And it's like this, like, it's like someone should just say like, hey, you know what? Yeah, people buy it because it's Iron Maiden. It's decent, but don't play the whole album live. Like, people want to hear. Like, I took my wife to Iron Maiden, the Book of Souls tour, in the Budweiser stage there.
I remember.
And it was a great experience, but a year later, I should have actually taken her for the first time to the Legacy of the Beast tour, because like if you get an introduction, a live introduction to Iron Maiden, Legacy of the Beast, or Senjutsu Live, it's just not even in the same ballpark. Anyway, so long story short, I think it's a good album, but if it wasn't Maiden, we wouldn't be talking about it, and I think it's unfinished, but I like a lot about it. But there's too much that I don't like about it. So anyway, that's it. Any final thoughts, Andrei?
I think you guys have shat on this album enough. I've tried to defend it.
Next week we talk about the Virtual 11. No. But anyways, no. There's good stuff in there. And I think we all agree that there's at least a few bad songs on there, and there's a few really, really good songs on there. And after this podcast, I am going to put on the album, and I'm going to enjoy the drums of Sinjutsu. I'm going to enjoy the weird guitar solos of Stratego. I'm going to sing along to the country vibe of Writing on the Wall, and I'm going to blow out my vocal cords with Bruce on Days of Future Past, and we'll take it from there.